We are involved on a high-level Supreme Court battle. We are doing what you've been asking us to do for the last few months as we've been working out the best method to do so. We have partnered with the Attorney General in the state of West Virginia.
It's at the Supreme Court now, and there's an oral argument in just a few weeks before the Supreme Court on this. Now, there was an injunction issued against an executive order, and this case has nothing to do with the executive order itself. It's not even at that point. What it has to do with is whether or not the district judge can issue a nationwide injunction, even though this covers districts way outside of his jurisdiction. And we at the ACLJ, along with the West Virginia Attorney General's office and the state of West Virginia, believe that that needs to be put on hold, that we should not be seeing these district court judges being able to make policy by blocking the actions of the president nationally. They could put it on hold in their district. They could have injunctions, but there's also the problem that they're making these decisions to put these nationwide injunctions in effect before even the briefing is completed.
You get those nationwide injunctions. We've talked about those issues involving immigration. There's been over 100 executive orders, so there's a number of these. But 67% of them have been issued against President Trump. So,
of all time.
And when these cases are moved, yes, this is in U.S. history.
In history. I think you got to make sure that's clear. In U.S.
He's only been president for 4 years and 100 days.
Well, yeah.
And so he's had
Sounds very like Abraham Lincoln would say that.
And 67% of those injunctions have been against President Trump. So what do we do? We of course we wanted to file in this case, but we thought it would be great to partner with our good friend who's an ACLJ alumni, the Attorney General of West Virginia, J.B. McCuskey, who'll be joining us live next. And the issue here, of course, is should a district court, let's say you're watching from Oklahoma right now, should a district court judge in California be able to impact your daily life? They're not even in your circuit, so they're not even your federal circuit. It doesn't make sense, right? So ultimately, you could say, well, maybe these would get resolved by the U.S. Supreme Court. That's not how we should live in the United States of America, where a district court judge, without a class being certified to protect a certain group of people, jumping through all of the hurdles of an actual case and just saying, I don't like this, so I'm going to stop you from being able to carry out your job as the executive. Usually we're talking about administrative agencies, Logan, at the federal level being out of control. Now we're seeing that at the judicial level. And people, I think, have been wondering, what can the ACLJ do? And here it goes.
What our office and what we're so grateful for your help in doing is arguing is that district courts need to get back to what it is that they do. And that is resolving issues in controversy with actual plaintiffs in front of them and leaving the constitutional review that affects every American, not just the Americans that are in their districts, should be left to the Supreme Court.
Usually we're talking about executive agencies and bureaucrats out of control. But now it's our court system. And people, I think, in this first 100 days have said, what are groups going to do? What can West Virginia do? What can the Attorney General do in West Virginia to stop these judges who are issuing orders to affect all of our lives when their jurisdiction is in a district of a state? For instance, in this case, Maryland, Washington, and Massachusetts are affecting how the federal government is able to carry out its job in West Virginia and nationwide.
Judges were never meant to be policymakers. And what we have effectively now are hundreds, if not thousands, of potential policymakers in the United States that aren't constitutionally equipped to be policymakers. They're not elected. They don't have a mandate from the people to affect policy on the United States. But we're seeing individuals, and you see the percentage, it's like 92% of those that have issued these injunctions against President Trump were appointed by Democrats. You're seeing that they are now carrying out policy of even prior administrations, if you want to take it to that level, by blocking moves that they don't believe, because of their political ideology, should be the policy of the United States. And I think that's what really should hit home with every single American, especially if you did vote for this current president. And even if you didn't, that's not how this works in the United States. And that's one of the main things I think that we, along with the state of West Virginia, are trying to put a stop to.
These cases had no trials. And when I say trials, I mean they weren't fully briefed. They weren't fully before the court. These were injunctions issued that then can what they try to do is stop the executive branch for carrying out its lawful duties, how they interpret laws that have been passed by your elected officials, by Congress, to empower the executive branch to carry out those laws. And a judge in a random district says, I don't agree with the interpretation of the executive branch on how to carry out this law.
The Democrats seem to get very aggressive about having their judges manipulate policy through these injunctions. And more times than not, they get overturned. So it's an activist judge who then just delays the policy because it's so egregious in what they're saying and how they're trying to stop the policy that they get overturned. And so I think that we should have this system where we're very transparent about the judges who are getting overturned. We show their record. We mock them because they're being an activist and they're missing the law, and that their colleagues through the appellate process are mocking them to say, you got it wrong, and trying to use the power of the bully pulpit and transparency, information, public education, all of that, the power of that, to showcase the judges who are activists, who are bringing politics into this. Because I think if you could see how many times a judge is overturned, the public then loses their confidence in these judges, and then we see who's playing politics.
We at the ACLJ wait for the right time when we know we can make the impact. We don't just rush into it where you could immediately get slapped down by a judge or have some issue. No, we knew that the right time is partnering with someone like the Attorney General of West Virginia to put our brief in when there is an issue that's pertinent at the Supreme Court and laying out the law that way. So it's strategic. It's a lot of hard work by the legal team, but this is the right time to get involved.
What makes us different from the rest of the world is our rule of law. So we have a respect for these institutions. That's why we have to correct them. So the idea is you don't want to get into a situation where the President of the United States is saying, I'm not going to reply. And here they have. So the Trump administration knows. And here's where the problem lies. The president can issue these orders to act. But if the bureaucracy then goes and says, well, a judge told us we can't. You see, you get into one of those issues where there's ultimately, this is what makes America great. What makes America great is ultimately we have a rule of law that you can trust. If we lose that, we are no different than China. We're no different than Russia. And it may sound like, hey, for the 2 years, you want your guy to have that kind of power. But when the other guys come in, do you really want them to have the kind of power where an ACLJ goes into court to stop one of their actions, let's say at the Supreme Court level, and they say, no, I don't care. Then what is the United States of America anymore, and what makes us unique? That is what we are fighting to save here.
Yep.
And ultimately, that is bigger than one president.